I think my main advice is don't give up. I think so many people get disheartened, and especially if they tried through 2021 to buy a house, they're probably at that point where they don't think it's possible. I honestly think don't give up. I think you're going to see some opportunities arise over the next sort of 6 months.
Yep. Going once, going twice, sold. You're listening to The Property Pod.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Property Pod for 2022. I'm your host, Aaron Horn, and I'm joined, as always, by the two team members at the desk, John McGregor and Patrick Berry. Welcome back to the studio, boys.
Hey, gentlemen. I'm not sure about you, but I'm struggling already to write 2022 on all the different documents. I'm still stuck in 21 at the moment.
Oh, man, are you just writing lots of documents at the moment?
All the time.
Yeah, just signing deals and getting them done. I'm enjoying writing. It's so much easier. You just kind of keep rolling the circular motion. I'm cruising.
Two.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I'm just excited to be back in the studio.
Yeah, it's been ages.
It's been ages for me.
It has, mate. Yes, and lots of people have been asking, how was your trip? We kind of didn't get a chance to catch back up before you got back. You only kind of got back at the end, and we do thank Andrew Leggett for coming in and helping us out over the period. He did a top job filling your seat.
My seat feels weird, actually. What's he done to us?
But no, give us a quick rundown of your trip and your time away and everything that happened. I know a few people were asking about it.
It was awesome. We actually did a caravan trip and had it all the way up to Alice Springs, so up through Adelaide into Northern Territory. Stopped up at Uluru on the way. It was stunning.
So you took the kids along with you as well, which is always kind of a nerve-wracking experience. It's kind of, we're going to survive this trip. It seems like you came back stronger than ever.
No, it's pretty good, and obviously travelling at this time is different. So a few challenges around border controls and access points and things like that, but followed the rules. We're allowed to do what we wanted to do. Caravan parks were pretty empty as a result, but no, it was enjoyable.
I suppose it didn't have the same amount of people that you could banter with, I suppose, as rolled on. But
no, well, some of the caravan parks we went to hold 300 to 400 vans, and there was 8 to 10 of us in the entire site.
Far out.
It was just like giant ghost towns of.
Well, I suppose if you just corral it like an old school caravan, so that'd kind of work.
Look, the caravan parks, the reception says on the door open till 5 o'clock. You'd get there at 4, not a soul there. You ring them up. Oh, just drive in, park anywhere. Pay me in the next day or so when you feel like coming down. It's like, all right. So relaxed.
Yeah, that's cool.
Did you say something about there's a monopoly on the accommodation near Uluru? As in it's almost like you can get your 5-star, you can get your 4-star, you get your 3. But it's all run by the same
company.
people.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it's like a little downtown village. They've got like an IGA petrol station. And then it branches out into these 5 different hotels, but they're all actually owned by the same company.
Yeah, right. So, in my head, then I just imagine they've got their own, there's a sheriff of that small town.
Well, there's a police station and a fire station there.
Oh, really? Owned by the same company?
Probably.
It's like a little Westworld.
But again, you were saying while you were there, it's kind of there's signs saying, make sure you get here early because there's going to be so many people if you want to get a good spot to see sunset, etc. You basically had the rock to yourself, and
pretty much. We rode around it on our bikes, and I think we met 2 people the whole way around it.
Yeah,
just nobody there.
Yeah, it's amazing. I guess it's one of those things where the world is still in kind of a state of flux, and we don't really know what's going on at the moment. But
I think Uluru relies very heavily on international tourists too.
Sure.
Because the amount of signs as you drive in that are in all these different languages, like just on the highway, and signs reminding you of simple things like what side of the road we drive on in Australia. And there's just because none of those international tourists are here, it was just empty.
Well, it's so such long straight roads. Imagine you kind of just happen to find yourself on the wrong side of the road because you're just kind of I haven't seen a car for 500 kilometres.
You do not realise how big it is until you drive for 400 kilometres and don't see a soul. And the only thing that you're driving to is the next petrol station. It's literally barren.
Nothing. Just nothing.
But it's good.
Yeah, no, you had a great time. You obviously made it back safe and sound. It's good to have you back on deck just in time for the silly season. We kind of all got together and I guess you made it back just as the mask mandate kind of kicked in and we ended up making our way out for our Christmas drinks, which was a little different to it had been in the previous year, but it was great to celebrate celebrate an amazing year at 414.
And that's it. 2021 for the real estate market in Tassie was just ridiculous. I think Nino sums it up best by describing it as the golden year in Australian real estate if you own a property.
Oh, can you imagine how many people who don't own a property would like, oh, what are you talking about, the golden year? But, I mean, just in terms of relative house growth, I mean, what did it say for Tassie, like 25 to 30% or something?
27.5% growth rate in the last 12 months, making it the hottest capital city in Australia.
Yeah.
And, to think, look, I remember when I started real estate, Hobart was just that sleepy little town no one cared about. And Sydney and Melbourne were going off. And now to know that Hobart is outperforming Sydney by, almost 3% in price growth is just unbelievable.
And look, one thing that I was reading an article just I suppose before this morning, and I think it was another agent commented not on the fact that now us locals just look at the prices like, yep, we've sort of caught up with the rest of the country now. It kind of makes sense. And I remember when we flew across to Adelaide and we're along Glenelg and you had these waterfront properties, looking at prices, I'm like, oh, $1 million, 1.5. I'm thinking, oh, yeah, that seems affordable. Whereas if at the same location, 5 to 8 years ago, I suppose, where they were looking at $1 million, like, oh my God, how does anyone ever buy these things? But we're just used to seeing those numbers as a local now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
On a side note, that is a great town in Adelaide. That's where I spent a week at the end of my holiday in the caravan park down there. It is stunning down there.
I
think, did you said, if we had to move somewhere else, it ended up being, that's where we head.
West Beach Parks or Glenelg, both awesome suburbs in Adelaide. They're so good down there.
Oh, well, there you go. Shout out to the crew in Glenelg. If there's anybody in Glenelg listening to the podcast, we'd love to hear from you. And we'd be very surprised if you were listening, but we're very glad that you are. And Pat likes what you got. I thought before we kind of jumped into anything that's going on in 2022, kind of predictions of what this year might look like, we could maybe discuss just kind of the year that 414 Property Co had. It was kind of a year of growth. It was a golden year for real estate, as Nino said, but it's also a golden year here. We've kind of doubled in size. There seems to be some things happening. I just wondered if you had some stats there, Pat, that you wanted to kind of let the people out there know kind of what our year was like and then maybe what we're focusing on.
Yeah, it was definitely a crazy year in 2021. Like, we really leveled up, just not from selling, but just from growth in the business as well, which I guess comes as a direct result from being so active. But, just from a numbers perspective, like, our average sale price now in the market that we work in is $488,000.
Yeah.
And people need to put that into context. We work Moona out to Baghdad, Norfolk, outer suburb areas. So when you start looking at suburbs like Bridgewater and Gagebrook and those areas, to still have an average suburb price of $488,000, that's just showcases how much prices have increased in the area.
And I remember even compared that to when we were doing it in our old business as well, with our sale price of about sort of 350 to 400. So that's nearly 30 to 50% in some ways of what's just happened just on a daily basis.
Yeah, and then to flow on from that, in 2021, we actually sold 192 properties, which it doesn't sound like, or to me it sounds like a big number because it is, but to some other agencies they would obviously sell a lot more, but we haven't got a huge team. So for our team to generate that much business in 12 months is just astounding. They did a fantastic job.
And do you have you mentioned a few of the suburbs there, but do you have a rundown of kind of our most active suburbs, the places we sold the most places in
Yeah, definitely. So the suburb that topped the list for us is Glenorchy, obviously where our main office is located. So Glenorchy was a real top performer for us. So it seems that we've been able to establish ourselves relatively well here. Claremont, surprisingly, was in second place. It's another outer suburb that's sort of growing in size and popularity at the moment. It's getting really good price growth. It's got a really good commercial district as well. Then we flow into Brighton, which we've done a lot of work in over the years. A lot of new buildings being built out there. Baghdad, which was the one that surprised me, John. I did not think that would be in our top 10, but apparently we own Baghdad.
I think if you bring in a superstar of real estate like Suze,
it shoots up pretty quickly. And then Bridgewater, which obviously is an area that we do a huge amount of work in. So they were our top 5 suburbs of where we did the majority of our work. So
one of the ones in Bridgewater that's a place where you do a fair bit, Pat, with the Senecare Evolve group, and that's kind of helping first home buyers get into properties. I know we've talked about it before. Can you quickly just kind of go into that and how they're helping out first home buyers, it's a tricky market for first home buyers?
Look, 2021 was probably the worst year ever if you're a first home buyer trying to get into the market, because every month the price is increasing so rapidly that you can never get that deposit saved quick enough before the prices have shifted again.
Absolutely, yeah.
Take my hat off to anyone that was a first-time buyer last year and was able to buy a property and get into the market, because they did well. Not only were they successful enough in buying a house, they were persistent enough to continue trying, because most people would have attempted multiple offers before they were successful.
Yeah, most definitely.
So when we work with companies like Senecare, who build a lot of brand new homes, they're very focused on only selling their stock to first-home buyers or owner-occupiers, which is a huge help, because the investor market pool in Tasmania, and especially the Hobart area in the suburbs we work, is quite high. It would be a fairly large percentage, wouldn't it, John? And
it's not weighted. It goes about 30%, buying, 30% fully owned, and 30% investors, generally speaking. But then in Bridgewater and Herdsman's Cove and those areas, it ends up moving up to sort of 50-60% in investors. So to be able to start to shift that number to home ownership is a really positive trend.
And it's really awesome that companies like Senecare that we work with are actually helping first-home buyers get into the marketplace.
Yeah.
But the downfall to that is that there are so many first-home buyers wanting to crack in it that they are still fighting against each other and still pushing those prices north. But it's just, unfortunately, there's just not enough stock at the moment to cover the demand.
But I think where the even I suppose looking forward this year and the coming years, where the current government's announced, I think it's a huge amount of money towards public housing. But I think that's where the ties in with Senecare and those companies, doesn't, because they're obviously securing the land, releasing it, and building it. So that's where that's where the funds will go to eventually. Yeah.
Yeah. But sales team did an amazing job, but the rental team were pretty impressive as well. We're now up over 830 rental properties on our books.
That's big.
And
that's just hard to fathom that like our team of property managers have over 830 properties that they're working on every day, ensuring that there's that many happy.
That's 1,600 people they're dealing with on a yearly basis.
When you think vendor, owner and tenant kind of.
And then I sit there and watch the girls, and I'll say, the tenants of 1 Smith Street called up. Oh, Mark and Mary. I'm like, how do you guys remember all their names? They're dealing with so many people, but they seem to do such a good job at remembering them. And they onboarded over 100 new rentals last year. I think that's a twofold there. It's great that they were able to generate so much new business, but it also shows how many new rental properties are coming into the marketplace as well from investors buying, because there's a lot of new-time investors that are buying properties off our sales team like yourself, John.
Yep.
And it's really great to see that they are entrusting us to then manage the properties for them.
Well, and that on two fronts, you've got the really low interest rates at the moment with a significant growth in relative capital. So people all of a sudden have greater access to money, which is enabling them obviously to secure maybe their first investment property as well. So it works hand in hand on that basis.
So, they've smashed goals as well.
And a big shout out to our superstar BDM, Joe Strange, who has kind of stepped into that role of finding some of those new properties and just absolutely killing it with building relationships with heaps of people across the gamut. And it's even going along to photo shoots and seeing her interacting with people. It's like, no wonder they entrust, their biggest asset with her and with us. She's so personable and so good at making you feel at home with.
Speaking of new staff members, last year we actually onboarded 12 staff members over 2021.
Weren't we like only a team of 12 prior to that? Like it feels like that's like doubled the entire stock.
It has. That's crazy.
So 12 staff. We onboarded 45 blog posts last year highlighting the market, the community, our team. So that's a massive hats off to you and Nino, that you guys just smashed it with the blog posts and the information that you put out there to help educate people.
I actually really, really love kind of coming up with the ideas and then passing them along to Nino and having them come together and just being like, oh, mate, I feel like this is something that's really like a hot button. Like even just the those new scooters, the e-scooters the other day, just being like, hey, mate, do you reckon we could chuck something together with this? Come up with this absolutely cracking article just about kind of how they're going. Talked with you about how kind of you experienced them on their first weekend and you'd had a crack at them in Adelaide. And
the problem was I didn't realise that you're supposed to not ride between the two pubs. So I've learnt my mistake and I won't be doing that again. Aaron informs me that that's a no-no.
That is a no-no.
So That's impressive. Some people might not know we actually launched our own magazine last year, which was a huge undertaking by Aaron and Nino, and so we're excited to continue that on moving forward next year.
And just for anyone out there that doesn't know, it gets its name from this very show.
It does.
We've stripped the property from it and we just call it Pod, the magazine. But really good read and some really good feedback on that as well.
Yeah, and the podcast put out 40 new episodes last year, so it was a huge month from a marketing team perspective. Yeah, and it's amazing how all of this content putting out there, I think, is what is then driving the team to be able to generate, the leads and opportunities they do.
Oh, 100%. And I guess it is fun to be like the whole creative process now. So I think we've got, all of us have the capacity with the right amount of staff with all the harebrained ideas that we all come up with consistently. We've actually got the resources to be able to, move ahead and actually make it happen.
Yeah, so look, 2021 was awesome. I'm excited to see where we go with 2022. So I guess that's the big crystal ball. What's happening next year?
Well, what is happening? I know we've spoken with, actually, just before we started recording, we received an email from our boy Simon Presley out there. Happy New Year to him. But basically, 22 things to look out for in 2022. A nice little number alliteration there. I was only listening to a ridiculous podcast before about, do you remember that Jim Carrey movie, The Number 23?
Yes. Yeah.
Horrible movie. And they are ripping it to shreds on the podcast I'm listening to. So... So next year, look out. There could be some.
Jim Carrey's career is going to take a real turn next year.
Oh, yeah. But, the number 22, 2022. I got lost there.
Well, I think I was chatting with my friend about what we're going to talk about this morning, and straight away he said, "Oh, look, now you see the articles: Melbourne Hobart market crashing, Sydney market crashing." He's like, "Well, no, it's not. I think even when what's going to happen over this year?" Again, going back to people smarter than us, but obviously the big four banks, all their economic projections, etc., were all wrong 12 months ago. But they're saying, well, there's still obviously going to be some real nominal growth, maybe 5 to 7%, whatever that means. But practically speaking, where we just had, following on from huge, 4 or 5 huge years, and then even the last 12 months of accelerated transactions, more properties selling as quickly as they possibly can. Fair enough. People have run out of steam. There's obviously a limitation of how much people can borrow, their capacities. But does that mean all of a sudden it hits the peak and then does it nosedive like .com bubble? No.
I don't know. The crazy thing though, 5 to 7% doesn't sound impressive when you quote numbers like 27 last year, but that's still potentially on some properties $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 in growth, which
100%
over a 12-month period is still ridiculous numbers.
Well, what was you said that one of the lowest, our most affordable house that we sold last year, $300,000 or something?
Yeah, I think we didn't have much under that. So.
Yeah, so even 5 to 10% on that's another $15,000 to $30,000. So it's not just a small. Again, then it's like, oh Jesus, can you? And the same problem goes again if someone's trying to save a deposit. All of a sudden, having an extra $30,000, it's not going to happen for most people. So. Again, it's not real positive news if you're trying to get into the market. But
yeah, I think we'll see an influx of properties coming to market this year. I think people will want to cash in on the price bubble before it potentially bursts, if it bursts. Whether or not that helps ease the pressure when people are trying to buy, and that's what brings the prices back, I guess we'll see. But, Simon, I'm pretty confident last time we had him on, he doesn't believe it's happening anytime soon just because of stock levels. So.
No, a few people were asking me over the break, and I'm like, you're asking the wrong guy. I take the photos. I don't do any of the...
Oh, come on, you work in a real estate
I
agency.
work in real estate, but that's the thing. They say, what do you think is going to happen? I'm like, mate, I'm not dealing with the numbers or anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, I took a photo of a place that looked nice. And
you're selling yourself short. You do numbers all the time. Sometimes it's 5 photos. Sometimes it's 8 photos. There's lots of numbers.
There's lots of numbers to crunch, yeah. But yeah, I would say, we're talking to this guy who we greatly trust, and he's saying, there could still be another 3 years before we see any change, and it's still growing. And it's funny, I was looking at this price prediction thing here, and all the big four banks are saying, probably rising 5% this year, but then next year it'll definitely drop. And it's like, where are they pulling that from?
There's just nothing. It's just sure, that seems to make sense.
People are arguing that Omicron is the reason why as well that we'll see a drop this year because, Tasmania now has COVID. But, 12, 18 months ago, everyone said coronavirus was going to kill the market, and that did the absolute opposite.
Yeah,
so, is it going to make a difference? Probably not. People still need to buy and sell. People are starting to just live their life and deal with it. So I don't think a virus is going to have any effect on the marketplace at the moment.
No, and I guess that there was a comment on there as well about what areas will benefit greater again. But again, probably those regional centres where people, again, are still reassessing what they really want out of their lives and do they need to be in big cities if, challenges occur. Now there's a bit of breathing space and a bit more freedom is continuing to move ahead there. We'll go, all right, well, just in case this ever happens again, let's just position ourselves to be in a better situation so we're not stuck like we were last time.
Yeah, I guess it's saying like the REA Group Southern Crew, can't really say that one. Sorry, Eleanor. But lifestyle locations such as Queensland are expected to do well in 2022. And a lifestyle location like Tassie is, definitely, Hemsworth's on his way. So
Absolutely.
If you can get Thor's hammer.
Well, here's a couple of thoughts too. One of our clients, I sat with him for about an hour and a half before we listed this property. But he was talking about how his perspective on all this. One of the things he talked about was the reason why he's selling now is because there was a doubling. So he bought this house over a decade ago, but he had a net benefit of just over 400% growth, I think, on his particular property when we worked the spreadsheets. And he just said, well, the reason why I'm cashing out now is like the values have doubled again. So it's like now I'm going to reallocate that money somewhere else.
Sure.
So and he was pure investor in that sake. So that's probably a common trend at the moment where people we're doing a lot of numbers at the moment going, well, wow, what should I do with it? Like, should I just cash out and just do something else with the money? And I suppose if do have one or two properties, you're coming into the end of your work life cycle, you think, well, let's just cash out in one of these and move to one of the areas that I really want to be in. And again, that goes to that lifestyle aspect again.
Glenelgs.
Glenelgs,
Cam Strait, great skate park there. Spent many hours there.
And then
Pat's retired with his skateboard and scooter at Glenelg.
I'm just going to be that old
man. Why'd you go there? I had a ripper bowl.
Well, I mean, my brother and his friend are pretty close to releasing their gin, and they're in South Australia, so you can we do need a brand ambassador, Pat. So.
I'm your man.
Yeah. So I guess then, if there is a potential for stock coming in, maybe it could be an instance of investors cashing out because the yields are lower because of yields aren't as strong as they were once been, especially locally, but they've had a huge amount of capital growth. Maybe they might cash out now and reinvest their money elsewhere, which would be just an interesting trend of new properties coming onto the market.
Yeah, for sure.
At the end of the day, I don't think we can really say what 2022 is going to look like, but we don't expect that it's going to be doom and gloom, that's for sure.
No. I mean, that idea that all of a sudden the market's going to crash and everyone's going to lose all the gains they had over the last several years, well, I mean, it's never happened before. And I don't know, like cyclically, maybe it's probably not going to happen again, So it's
not like we're dealing with the Squid Games currency that came and went within a couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
So just looking forward to 2022, we think that things are still going to keep growing. Is there any advice out there for people that are looking to get into the market or are kind of sitting, not knowing what to do? It's like, what are their real estate agents'
I think my main advice is don't give up. I think so many people get disheartened, and especially if they tried through 2021 to buy a house, they're probably at that point where they don't think it's possible. I honestly think don't give up. I think you're going to see some opportunities arise over the next sort of 6 months.
Yep.
And it may still mean that you miss out on a few in the early months, but I think a few more opportunities will open up and you'll finally get that place you've been searching for.
Yeah, it's awesome. Look, and mine would be don't try and pick the market. Don't try and be too smart because people are now asking that question like, oh, is this the wrong time to buy? Is the prices too high? It was like, well, just buy to your lifestyle. Buy and sell to your lifestyle. Because I think the idea that you'll
live in the moment.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, if we're expecting to pick to try and pick the perfect time to buy and sell, some people are able to do that. I'm certainly not. But like Pat said, is if there's really great opportunities and you've got a bit disillusioned, there will be opportunities coming up. And don't try and be too smart. Just buy and sell to your lifestyle.
Yeah, cool. That all sounds very, very useful. Thank you once again, boys. Here at 414 Property Co, we pride ourselves on all types of property for all types of people. So anybody out there listening, don't feel ashamed to pick up the phone or send a silly email if you might kind of think like, oh, I'm in this position but I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Reach out. We're always here to help. yeah, I know your kind of big focus of 2022 is going to be kind of giving back and trying to kind of put the community spirit back into real estate.
Yeah, no, we're really excited. We've got some awesome ideas coming live in 2022 based around that so, watch this space. We're really ready to get into it.
Most definitely. Thank you, boys, once again for jumping back in the studio. It's a bit weird with the mask, but I feel like it might be something that we'll be doing for quite a while. It's actually really good for my editing. It makes it very easy. I'm happy with that. So good to have everyone back. Welcome back to a big year for property, big year for 414 Property Co, and a huge year for the Property Pod. Thank you once again.
Thanks for having us, Az.
All right.
Peace.
You have been listening to the Property Pod, recorded and edited by 414 Media House in conjunction with 414 Property Co.
This podcast is general information only, and the thoughts and views expressed is the opinion of our panel, and listeners should always seek then use their own investigation into any topic we discuss to ensure they fully understand their own situation.
It does not constitute and should not be relied on as purchasing, selling, financial or investment advice or recommendations, express or implied, and it should not be used as an invitation to take up any agent or investment services. No investment decision or activity should be undertaken on the basis of this information without first seeking qualified and professional advice.